This feels like one of the true NBA rivalries. What do you force each other to tap into?
The MVP is in that court, the reigning MVP, so he is our main focus. Anybody is hard to guard when you have to help on the MVPs.
People will be like, y'all got beef? I'm like, beef?
Yeah.
We're out there competing, but beef means like when I see you, like we're fighting. Right. You honestly don't even know the guy. Like we just play basketball against each other.
Holmgren. Oh, it got tricky there. After a beautiful spin move and finish. His fourth 20-point game or better. Holmgren counts it, gets something good out of it. He fires. He scores! Back to Victor. Another three. Get out of here! Oh, my goodness. That was from Paris, Texas.
There seems to be a new hot rivalry in the NBA, and this one's a little bit different. These are two guys that have the atypical build. I mean, it's not a build that we haven't seen before, because obviously guys like Kevin Durant exist. The 6'10" to 7'2", lanky, tall frame player that somehow moves like a two guard. He can shoot it, he can dribble, he can play defense, he's rangy. Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren is a rivalry that really started before the NBA. That's what makes this fun. There's layers to it. And today we're gonna peel those layers back. Let's talk about the head-to-head duel of the unicorns. I'm your boy Chipoverseas, and before we get into today's video, I just want to say thank you guys for the love on the channel. We're currently at 1,800 subs. Let's get that number up to 5K, y'all. I want to see if we can get to 5K by, let's say, February. All right, I think that's very doable. Right now, I'm currently at Sunday drops, but I'm going to open up the window to 2 drops a week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now, let's skip all the boring stuff and get right back to the video. The San Antonio Spurs just beat the Oklahoma City Thunder right before I made this video. They won in a game that was pretty much evenly matched all throughout the night. Final score ended up being 111 to 109, and the Spurs are just the second team in the NBA to beat the OKC Thunder this season. I mean, I don't have to really tell you how great the Thunder have been. That should be self-explanatory by this point. If it's not, then you really need to watch some more NBA basketball or just subscribe to the channel. Either one. Wemby was on a minute restriction, only playing 21, but he made the most of his time while he was out there, scoring 22 points, none bigger than the ones that he had coming down the stretch. He was a plus 21 on the game, led his team, and also added 9 rebounds. On the other end, Chet Holmgren, the second half of his new rivalry, poured in 17 points and 7 rebounds, and he was a plus 18 on the night in 30 minutes. But this game wasn't just about the stats. I mean, the stats are cool, but you really see something happen within Wemby. Whenever he plays against Chet, he has a true chip on his shoulder in these matchups. I mean, watching the game, you see both Chet and Wemby do things that only they can do, like Wemby getting a block on his way down and coming down the other end of the court and draining a 3 from 30 feet out, essentially a one-man fast break. But Wemby's not typically the most emotional player. If I had to describe Wemby as a player in one word, I'd say intellectual, and that's justified by the things that we know about him off the court. I mean, the guy spent the summer with monks in Shaolin temples training Lord knows what, and then after that he calls Hakeem Olajuwon to work on footwork, and then he calls Jamal Crawford to work on handles. I mean, he's got his head screwed on, and when you hear him talk in interviews, he's always speaking about philosophical things. So he's super calculated and super composed typically. But when he plays against Chet, he's not the same player. An element of fire rises out of him and it kind of elevates his game. Early on in his career with matchups against Chet, I feel like that fire was kind of holding him back because it was getting him out of his game. Maybe he wasn't used to playing with that. But every basketball player knows, once you learn how to harness that, it turns you up to a completely different level. There was a play where Wiggins from the OKC Thunder hard fouled Wemby, and Wemby just kind of stares him down and just flexes on him. You don't typically see that from Wemby. Then another time, he hit a crazy tough bucket over Caruso, and he kind of just pointed at him. Like, when did you ever see Wemby mock a defender? But why is it that Chet brings that out of him? Well, I'm gonna take you guys way back, man. We're gonna go through the whole timeline and show you how the battle of the unicorns came about. Chet's 2 years older than Wemby, and when Chet was coming up, he was a player that was highly touted. In his senior year of high school, he averaged 21 points, 12.3 rebounds, and he won the Minnesota Class 3A state title, and that just so happened to be his 4th state title while competing at Minnehaha High School. I'm not joking, that's his actual school's name. He went on to win Mr. Basketball of America, the Gatorade National Player of the Year, Naismith Prep Player of the Year, Morgan Wooden National Player of the Year. He was a McDonald's All-American. He was a Minnesota Mr. Basketball. This guy had every single award you can win in high school. Wemby, on the other hand, as I've covered in other videos, I'll link that in the description below, Wemby was more of a silent creeper. I mean, everybody knew that this guy was different, but nobody actually knew how good he was gonna project to be. I tell the story all the time that I played in the same league as Wemby. The first time I heard of this kid's name was the first game that I played against him, because he wasn't winning Player of the Year awards until his last season before he came out to the NBA. And I think that deep down, Wemby kind of saw that, and maybe somewhere psychologically he might have had the thought that if I was in America at the same time as this kid Chet, right? Because they're comparable in stature, they're comparable in games, they kind of do similar things. Except Wemby is like ×3 in my opinion. Wemby might be thinking if I was him, I'd have the hype that he has x2. And he'd be right in saying that, because look what Wemby turned out to be. But their paths would cross in the FIBA U19 World Cup. It was the first time that the American audience was able to really get eyes on Wemby and see what he projected to be against American talent. And it shouldn't be a surprise that he absolutely did his thing. USA was able to capture the title in the 2021 World Cup, and Chet actually won MVP of the tournament, holding averages of 11.9 points per game, 6.1 rebounds per game, 3.3 assists, and 2.7 blocks. All super solid numbers. The only problem is that unicorn on the other end did everything ×2. Wemby would finish with 22 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 blocks in just 27 minutes. And the numbers were cool, but it really was the picture of the all-tournament team being called up to half court, and you'd see the stark difference in stature in the two players. Wemby looked like he was towering over Chet, and at the time we looked at Chet like a 7'2" guy that could really shoot. Man, we've never seen anything like. And then you'd see Wemby, he looks like a 7'6" guy. And that picture, I feel like, really went viral, and it really put everybody in America on notice. Not only did Wemby show up by outplaying Chet and the American guys, Chet was on a team that was stacked. He was just another guy. He averaged 12 points for the whole tournament. Whereas Wemby had to do it all on his own. No disrespect to the French guys, but that was his team. I mean, in the final game, Team USA had 5 players scoring double digits. Meanwhile, France only had 3. No other player on Wemby's roster would go on to be effective NBA players. Meanwhile, on the USA roster, Chet had Peyton Watson, Jaden Ivey, Kenny Lofton Jr., and a bunch of other highly touted prospects at the time. But being that he was 2 years older, Chet got the first crack at going through the NBA draft process. Leading up to him getting drafted, he was considered a top prospect coming out of Gonzaga. But if you look at what he was projected to do in college, and you look at the production that he actually had, you can say that Chet wasn't what everybody thought he was. Chet was supposed to have a Kevin Durant-like impact on the NCAA. And he was a good player, don't get me wrong. WCC Newcomer of the Year, WCC Defensive Player of the Year. Those are legit things, but it wasn't the Kevin Durant generational kind of impact that we were thinking. And to be honest, if you kind of plug and play, this goes back to the Wemby debate. Wemby's looking at that situation too. Like, if I wanted to play college basketball, I'd have the Kevin Durant type impact. I'd be the one that everybody's talking about, and they'd feel good about it because I would deliver. Chet kind of left more to be desired. He ended up going number 2 in the 2022 NBA draft behind Paolo Banchero, and it was a legitimate conversation about who should go 1, who should go 2. I'm not going to say Chet was clearly not the best player in his class or clearly didn't have the highest upside in the class, but there was something there. And Wemby's process happened the next year. Like I said, I'm not going to go too much into that because I did cover that in other videos, link in the description. But it feels like the stamp that Wemby got in the draft process kind of set him over the top of comparison to Chet. In his mind, he obviously feels like he's a superior player to Chet. But it also happened in the media. Media members were calling Wemby the best prospect. I feel like nowadays that kind of phrasing gets overblown a lot because everybody's looking to be right. I was first on him. I said he was the GOAT. But he legitimately was hands down the #1 prospect in probably the last 10 years, just based on the sheer size and impact that if he developed no offensive skills, he'd have on the defensive end. And when they both got to the NBA, funny enough, Chet actually got injured. Remember, he had that foot injury that he suffered at a Seattle Pro-Am game, a game that featured LeBron James and some other top NBA talent. So before he even got on the NBA court, he was ruled out for the season in his actual rookie year. So he was competing for Rookie of the Year the next season when Wemby came to town. But Wemby's impact was immediate. And it goes back to roles. I feel like Chet always kind of got the short end of the stick because he's always on great teams, but he's got a smaller role. At high school, he only averaged over 20 points per game his senior year, but he still got 4 championships. In college, he went to Gonzaga. He only averaged about 14 points per game, but they were a winning program. Now he comes to OKC. OKC is a well-oiled machine by the time he gets in. Yeah, he's one of the building blocks of the future, but they kind of were getting the ball rolling already. He's just another guy in OKC. Meanwhile, Wemby was going down that same route because at Asvel, he was just another piece. They were using him sparingly. I think he averaged like 10 minutes a game. But then he came to Met 92, a club that was small, a club that went bankrupt after he left, right? So there's not just a bunch of talent that he's playing with, and he carried them to the championship. And now he's coming to the NBA, and he's with the Spurs, who they have Greg Popovich, but they don't have great talent. They're in the rebuilding stage. So he's really been doing the groundworks of getting to be a main guy, getting to be the superstar player because he's put in these situations that Chet just wasn't. Before his highly anticipated matchup today, Wemby was asked about his matchup with Chet Holmgren, the big, great rivalry of the Unicorns. What do you think about that, Wemby? Wemby had to say, the MVP is on that court. He's our main focus. Anybody is hard to guard when the MVP is on the court. And to me, he's just playing down the impact of Chet. He understands what I was just explaining. Chet might be great. Chet might be on the same level as Wemby. But guess what? Chet also plays with the league MVP. We will never get to see the full potential of Chet Holmgren while he's playing with somebody that's clearly better than him, because he will never be the best player on the team playing with Shea. And so Wemby's using that as a weapon to kind of poke fun at him. It's like, I'm the man over here. I got to worry about the man over there. You ain't the man over there, so why am I worried about you? You're second fiddle. I'm looking eye to eye with Shea, figuratively, not physically. And I thought that was very telling about his mindset when it comes to competition with Chet. I don't think he looks at Chet like competition, and I think he gets mad when people make videos like this with the title like this and the thumbnail like this on this video, saying that he's in some kind of rivalry with Chet, because Wemby's thinking, I'm an MVP candidate. My rivalry is with somebody that needs to be in the MVP race. But guess what? This is basketball. And in basketball, if you win, you got a seat at the table. Last season, Chet Holmgren was a big part, I would say, in the OKC Thunder getting a championship. So that counts for something. Chet has a seat at the mythical table just because he won a championship. He can always have that over Vic. Say, oh, dude, you're not a winner. You don't play winning basketball. We know it's not true because he's probably the best defensive player I've ever seen. Defense wins championships. So in theory, he will get a championship at some point. But until that point comes, Chet's like, yo, come back down to earth, buddy. There's been a lot of chatter about the Wemby-Chet debate, and people actually find ways to give Chet the edge over Wemby. Like this anonymous Facebook user saying that Chet is more polished than Wemby right now, plays more controlled. And if you read the comments under this post, a lot of people were agreeing, saying that Wemby is more talented, but Chet plays more under control. But I think a huge part of the reason that people might have that perception is his role is so small and defined that he can star in his role, and we don't get to see as many of his flaws. Like Chet doesn't really have to grab a rebound, push it up court, pull a tray ball, come back down, get a defensive stop, push the ball to the court, start the fast break. He's more of the guy that gets to be the finisher, where Wemby got to be the initiator and the finisher. Like even look at their head-to-head stats over the course of their career. It's not a huge sample size. However, you can see that Wemby pretty much gets him in everything except for field goal percentage and three-point percentage. Part of the reason is because he has to shoot so many threes to keep his team competitive. But everything else is not really that much of an argument. You look at Chet's blocks per game. 2.2 is a really good high-level defensive player in the game. Wemby almost doubles his blocks. That right there is just insanity. And in the 4 games, Chet right now has the head-to-head. If you look at all the good rivalries, I mean, there was just a graphic that I saw about LeBron and Kobe's rivalry. I mean, they never got to get it on in the playoffs, but it still was a good and fun rivalry. But LeBron dominated that from the wins-losses perspective. Now, it's still so young in their careers that Wemby can kind of right the wrongs, and obviously Wemby got the win tonight, so that number is already closer to even. But that's something that when people are gonna look at the numbers 20 years from now when their careers are done, that's something that is going to matter, right? But Chet has a slightly different outlook on it, and it kind of shows the difference in mentality. Chet's more understated. He's not really playing into the media games, and he's not really playing into the rivalry thing. He's more so got the take the high road approach. They asked him about what he thinks about the rivalry, and he said, because the NBA is a business and the league has been built around players playing basketball, it's about getting people to come watch the games. That's one of the ways they do it, by advertising the players. The NBA is going to handle the business around it. That to me is slightly confusing because these guys are supposed to be the alphas of alphas when you talk about basketball players, right? Basketball players have a lot of bravado. They have a lot of pride, ego, confidence, but it's supposed to be like that. When you see basketball players have the opportunity to puff their chest out, and they take the high road and start talking about basketball as a business and they're just playing it up, it makes me question where their head is at. Maybe he is too comfortable within his position in OKC, because the other guy is not saying that. The other guy is playing into it. The other guy is using that as fuel. He's saying, yo, you're not on my level. So you think that Chet, this is like the perfect opportunity to start, you know how Klay Thompson always does the 4-4-4. This is your time to say, well, I got a championship. What's he got? You know what I mean? Like, this is if you say that in this position, nobody complains about that. You actually get patted on the back for speaking like that. But I think it kind of exposes a lot in how he views it. I don't think he's convinced that he's in the running with a Wemby, and maybe it's because he's got the ring and he's just not saying it. But after that same game where Chet got the best of Wemby, they asked Wemby, is it exhausting? Like, all this hype about you versus Chet, and you guys been playing against each other since the U19s. Are you getting tired of this? Wemby said, no, because I don't have a social network right now. I'm not following that at all, so I don't feel that. But every time I go up against a good player at that position, it's kind of a different challenge because it's not the case with every team. Not every team has an offensive-minded big, so it's always a good challenge. Again, this is very subtle, but Wemby is kind of sunning Chet a little bit. He called him an offensive-minded big. He didn't say like he's in the same air as me as far as being like a unicorn. He said the only thing that we have in common is that we're offensive-minded bigs. That right there is very minimizing to what Chet is, and maybe this is why Chet is taking the high road, because when you got somebody out there that's constantly at you, and it's not like Wemby is just like saying this, dismissing Chet, and then going on the court and still dismissing him. Like, he's dismissing Chet, but then he's also at Chet's neck. Like, every time he gets a block on Chet, he's going to stare him down. Every time he scores on Chet, it means a little bit more. I remember the last time that they played, the first couple buckets, Wemby literally just put his shoulder down and rammed it right into Chet's chest just to let him know, like, yo, I'm coming at you hard. Pause. See, I feel like with these two, it's not even the fact that they score, right? When you talk about unicorns, you talk about guys that are tall and can shoot, right? But that's not the whole story, because guys like Bol was tall and can shoot. Guys like Greg Monroe was tall and can shoot. No, it's guys that are tall and can shoot and can move like a two guard, but also they get the same energy on the defensive end. And that's what separates these two from everybody else. People think that they figured out Wembanyama, right? They put smaller guards that are physical on him to wear him down and just kind of rough him up a little bit because he's so tall. He's got a long center of gravity. And if you get inside of him, it's like a boxer. When you hit that body, you hit that body. At the end of the fight, he's a little bit worn down. So that's exactly what happened in the game today. Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, all those smaller guards are just knocking Wemby off his mark. But in the last closing minutes of the game, Chet Holmgren was the primary defender on Wemby. Chet Holmgren can hold his own for the most part. Now, is he going to stop Wemby? No, nobody's going to stop Wemby. And that's why there was help defenders coming over. Even Lou Dort got a block on Wemby because Chet was holding him down one-on-one, and that opens up the opportunity for Dort to get that weak side block. But when you talk about impact and you talk about people that are franchise players, there is only one unicorn that matters. The Spurs are now 18-7. Wemby is playing at an MVP level, and that's not a knock on Chet, because Chet is in a better situation from a player standpoint. But the way I look at it is, if you switched out Chet for Wemby, who would be elevating their team a little bit more? And I think the clear answer is Wemby. I mean, there's only so much you can elevate the Thunder even more. But the fact that he is such a defensive threat, I think it kind of gives the Thunder a different element of paint protection with their wings that play so aggressively on defense. And if you put Chet in that number 1 slot, I don't know if he has the offensive versatility and the offensive firepower that Vic has in order to keep the Spurs at that 18-7 pace. So I'd have to give the edge to Wemby, and he's 2 years younger, so it kind of looks like he's going to keep the continuous edge. But it's going to be interesting because if Chet continues to be that star in his role, and he continues to develop, because every time I see him, he's adding stuff to his bag. And the biggest part of this is, knock on wood, they both stay healthy. But I think you'll start to see that gap close a little bit more, and this actually turned into a real fun rivalry.